Thank you everyone for joining us today. So I'll pass the time to my colleague Tai Hao from Accelerate to make the introduction to this event.
Okay, hi. My name is Tai Hao from Accelerate, and so thanks to the Susan and colleagues from A-Start Central. A-Star, we have the A-Start Central is the Accelerate's open innovation platform to incubate, accelerate, and bolster the ecosystem with community interaction with researchers, corporates, startups, investors, entrepreneurs, and across all disciplines. A-Start Central also, apart from providing space, also have innovation programs, facilities, and equipment such as web labs and prototyping space. This webinar is organized with Clarence and Origgin. We are the first VCC collaboration between Origgin and Accelerate to co-create startups. In particular, co-create startups with researchers not having to leave the research labs in A-Star. So these are some examples of startups that have been co-created since, and 3 of them are with Origgin. We bring ecosystems and corporate buyers and also venture capital into the ecosystem. Just a bit of introduction to Clarence. So Clarence is a serial entrepreneur and started in 1993, I think. And his other claim to fame, apart from being a serial entrepreneur, is he's still serving the nation despite being over 50 years old as a elite brigade commander. And he was previously also the National Day Parade commander in 2012. So this chap comes heavily loaded to collaborate with us. So over to you, Clarence.
Oh, thanks, Nihal, for the intro. I mean, my other job supposed to be classified lah. Why you go and say this kind of thing? But anyway, okay, I'm Clarence over here. Nice to be invited to share how Origgin do our venture creations. Basically, together with A-Star, I think we have done this throughout the so-called couple of years. I mean, we started this together with Tai Hao's department from Accelerate. We actually started this in 2017 July. So we are coming to 3 years old technically. So we have done quite a fair bit of so-called spin-off venture creations together with A-Star. I think I can share more subsequently on my slides. So a bit of my background. So basically, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my first startup way back in 1993, as what Tai Hao has said earlier on. So it's about 27 years of doing startup. So in 3 years ago, about 2017, I decided to step up for my last startup. I decided to go into more on angel investment. So I make some money, lost quite a lot of money during my startup so-called journey for the past 27 years. So 2017, when I worked together with Tai Hao, and I said that, look, can we maybe look at some of the tech from A-Star and see whether we can, try to get it out, commercialize it, and try to, spin up the company. That's how it's all started now. So if you look at venture creation, I want to share with you is basically we are not a fund. I mean, Origgin, basically, when I started Origgin, the mindset is to invest in deep tech startup as an angel, as very early stage investor. So over maybe about half a year later, we decided to say, hey, angel is a bit too boring for me to, just invest. And, some of my friends are doing right now, they invest and they play golf and they just become a sleeping partner, or maybe do very little to help the startup because they just financial investment. But because for my background, I've been doing startup, so I wanted to keep myself busy by helping the researcher or the scientists or even the professors, right, to spin out the company, to roll up the sleeve and work together and get the company off the ground. So if you look at the entire whole so-called company itself, we evolved to become a venture creator. So technically, we are venture creator, or somebody call it venture builder. We are not technically an accelerator, we are not an incubator. We create a venture together with the research institute, together with universities, and we are the main purpose is try to uncover great technology. You know, we have a lot of good technology from universities, from A-Star, such as for your departments, the RIs in A-Star. Then the main thing is, of course, we have a lot of networks on the enterprise so-called side of it. We have Japan's network, we have China network, we have Singapore listed network. So whereby I gain access to, and I realized that they have a lot of business pain point to solve. So this is how I'm trying to bridge the technology to the market. And in the midst of doing that, of course, we need to really create a venture to help the researcher to commercialize the tech, and to a certain TRL level, whereby the enterprise would like to take it forward and do the proof of concept. Eventually, the end state is to how to get it commercialized, how to get it to the market. Maybe even can help the enterprise to disrupt their own product, disrupt their own market, or even create a new business model entirely for the enterprise. So that is how the entire venture creation methodology at a high level. So you look at the commercialization step. This is, I would say, I have about 5 main steps. Of course, the very beginning, we will need to identify technologies, either from NUS, either from A-Star. Okay, it all started with A-Star, but of course, this entire venture creation has gained quite a lot of traction in a way that we have expanded it into NUS, into NTU, even some foreign universities like Harvard, like ETH. I know they are tech being commercialized in Singapore, so we are helping them to do that as well in Singapore. Hopefully, by using Singapore as a base to branch out into Southeast Asia region. So first step is to identify any suitable technology that can solve some of the business pain point of the big enterprise in Singapore, Japan, or China. Then, of course, we'll do our evaluation to make sure that tech itself has the commercial potential. If let's say there's a commercial potential, there's a need and a requirement from the enterprise, then we will go ahead to form the company, right? With the researchers still in the lab, but we'll take care of the commercial side of it to form a company. Of course, then we will help to develop the business plan and to go into commercial discussion with the enterprise, and we will also try to leverage on those government grants like from ESG and all these things, and try to work with prototyping partners, bring on board some strategic advisor to open up store and to advise on how to scale up. And of course, we'll continue to raise follow-on funding to sustain your commercialization so-called path towards the towards the market. Then, of course, the next step, you want to be unicorn. For deep tech startup, you can't just do your business in Singapore. We need to really go overseas. This is where we also partner with several overseas partners to see whether we can, bring you into China, bring you into Japan, or in some of the countries in Southeast Asia. So that is the so-called, I would say, maybe the 5 steps that we will be collaborating with the RIs and universities and helping the researchers to commercialize with the idea or with the intent that researchers don't need to leave their day job to do that. Because if you look at the professor from NUS or NTU, I think it's quite difficult for them to just jump to a new startup without some certainty. Because startup, especially in deep tech startup, is almost like 99% failure rate. So no professor in the right frame of mind will want to do that. So definitely we have to come in to make sure the next 24 months to 36 months, everything able to stabilize before the researcher or professor jumps. Okay, so this is the part that we would like to value add to the researcher or scientist. Okay, I just want to share, this is the typical milestone that we will help to build the startup from the lab itself. Okay, so typically you can see this is the 5 years. Anything you do with deep tech itself, it will be at least 5 years. Okay, we are not talking about consumer tech. We are not talking about that kind of sharing apps, that kind of so-called IT apps tech itself. We are talking about really deep tech. Deep tech, from what I realized over the past couple of years, you need at least 3 to 5 years. So typically when we go in, we venture create together with A-star or universities, we will at least try to put in our pre-seed money to get it off the ground. It will be in the region of about 50 to 100K, very quick in 2 months time, identify the tech itself to see whether there's a demand from the enterprise. If there is the match, then we'll get it off the ground. Then within 6 months, we'll try to bring in the seed money. And typically seed money will be ranging from 300K to about 1 mil. This is some of our startup gone through it. Then within the 18 months, we are trying to go for pre-A and Series A. So I'm glad also to say that one of the company early on where I have Fresh, I think in his first slide, Sentient.io is an AI company that spun off from A-Star itself. They just gotten their Series A. They just gotten $5 million. They are valued at 25 million. So they are about 3 years. My very first company that I've done with A-Star. So they're on path to build quite a lot of traction in Japan market. I think they're also planning for some kind of listing in Japan in the coming 2 to 3 years. So you can see from zero all the way to any M&A, trade sale, IPO, or collaboration with enterprise will take the deep tech startup anywhere between 5 to 7 years before you even can see some big things happening. So this is typically the life cycle of a deep tech startup. Right. Okay, let me just share next slide. So this is to also give you a view of various companies that we supported in various sector. We don't focus on a particular sector. When I started off, my background is in ICT because I do a lot of internet, I do a lot of cloud system. So I realized that there are so many I can invest in ICT. Then when NUS came along, he said, oh, I got this food tech, are you keen? But then I look at it about 3 years ago, I said, hey, food tech is something that I'm not familiar. So initially I thought not getting into it, but then I realized the process and the demand from the enterprise is almost, there's demand and the process is almost the same of getting this startup to spin it off. So I give a shot and I started the first spin-off from food science technology from NUS. Then I realized that actually not very difficult, even though I'm not familiar with food tech, I'm not familiar with material, I'm not familiar with med tech, but the process of getting them into the market, commercializing it, I think it's almost the same because it's the same network, same resource, same funding, same almost the same type of investor that I have connection to. So it expanded from ICT all the way to other sectors. So now we are into 5 main sectors. As you can see from there, we have agri-food tech, we have sustainability, which is the main topic for today. Then we have advanced engineering, we have ICT and MedTech. So this is how we have grown over the past almost coming to 3 years. We have spun off almost like 30 plus company. You can see that we are doing something like almost like one deep tech startup per month, the type of speed we are talking about. So it has been quite a successful ride in terms of doing a deep tech startup for us. But of course, to exit is still 2 years to 3 years down the road. As I mentioned earlier on, it's a 5 to 7 years type of time frame for deep tech startup, right? So these are some examples of our companies that we have done. I share some, maybe a snapshot. So this is Force. This company was spun off from NUS itself. They are focusing on nano microscope, right? So they are able to, okay, the pain point, always we start with the pain point, right? The existing optical microscope limitation, they can't really see down to maybe even below 200 nanometer or maybe even 400 nanometer, facing some problem. So this technology from Prof. Hong in NUS, they're able to overcome the optical limitations and they're able to zoom down to object of size about 137 nanometer at a very low cost. That means enable a low cost microscope to even look at 137 nanometer size of the particle itself. So this is one of the breakthrough, and Sigma Cookie from Japan side actually partnered with them, and they are trying to mass produce this microscope to go after the Japanese and China market. So this is one example of bringing in technology to work with the enterprise in Japan, for example. Sentient is the first company, as I mentioned. I think this company, I think some of the A-Star folks will be very familiar. Christopher Yeo is the founder of Sentient. 3 years ago, he started Sentient, and now they are going to Japan market as well. So this is also another area that AI 3 years ago is quite a hot topic. So they are now having some traction. Hopefully in 2 years time, we will see maybe we'll see an exit of Sentient. That will be a very first so-called success for our portfolio company. Then the third company, this NUS Cool, is also spun out from NUS. They invented the world's first aircon without using chemical compressor. They're all water-based cooling systems. So now we able to bring them into STT, the global data center. This is one of our partners that I'm doing some joint investment with them in the cloud space. So they realized that in the aircon environment, in the data center environment, they need a lot of aircon to cool the environment for their servers. So this is one of the method they can employ, one of the system using water-based system to cool the data center, because they are using a lot of the cooling tower, which is not so environmental friendly, suck out a lot of power. So this system itself, it doesn't use chemical, you use water-based. So now we are in the midst of doing a proof of concept with STT itself. If proven to be successful, I think their data center in the region, anyway, they are one of the largest data center owner in this region. They're likely to adopt that technology. So this is also solving some of the business pain point to use a more efficient cooling system for data center. It started off solving some of the residential and commercial cooling, but now we are pivoting into the data center space itself. So just to share with you some example. Okay, Synergy is in the food science sector. So they found a way to so-called convert those byproduct underutilized okara. Okara is derived from tofu and from making your soya bean meal. So they normally throw away this okara, or they reconfigure to for animal feed. So now we found a way to convert this okara into probiotic high fiber drinks to target a certain segment of the market. So we are now collaborating with a local SME, Mr. Bean. I think you all will be familiar with Mr. Bean, to try to come out another type of drink for the market, probiotic drinks for the market. So you will see this, towards the end of the year, there will be a new product launch, hopefully by then. And of course, another spin-off, Provisions, they invented the world's first probiotic beer. As we all know, probiotic cannot survive, they can't survive in alcohol, right? So in this case, the live probiotic itself is survived in alcohol. So we created somehow a needs, very health conscious so-called drinkers in the market itself. They wanted the alternative beer that can be healthier, maybe more innovative or more special type of beer. So this is where we are trying to target that segment, whereby you ingest the beer, it will give you some health benefit to your gut, and it tastes also like a beer, that kind of thing. So it's like a Yakult and a beer combined together, right? So it gives you some kind of health benefit. So we are doing some kind of POC, proof of concept, with APB. APB is a Tiger beer, and also Brewworks. I think if everything goes well, in about 2 or 3 months' time, you'll be able to try the beer in Brewworks. I think Brewworks is trying to roll the beer in the market. And subsequently, we are trying to do with APB, Tiger beer. APB, we are collaborating with A-Star, SimTech, trying to do utilize some of the technology to enhance the shelf life of this probiotic beer in the bottle environment. So this is another example that cross-institute collaboration between A-Star and NUS itself. So I'm trying to bring in more collaboration at this level. So the researcher in some of the researcher in A-Star also now working closely with our team to try to come out with a product for the market. So I just want to share this part with you. Archisen will be coming on board later on. They are building one of the largest indoor farm in Singapore. And of course, we all know during this COVID period, especially, food security is a big issue. So now they are trying to see whether using tech itself to increase the productivity of getting our own vegetable to be grown in a controlled environment, in the indoor environment. So this is later on, I'll ask Vincent to share more about this tech with you guys. And a new space is in the nano-satellite space. They are now trying to launch, they already launched one nano-satellite into space. They are launching, I think, a couple more this year or next year. So hopefully they want to create a constellation of the satellite, nanosatellite, to take care of the IoT communications. So this is also spun off from NUS. And initially, nobody want to fund so-called nano satellite type of venture, because a lot of my VC friends basically are not interested in satellite or in the space industry, because to them, it's space they don't really understand, because it's like a long gestation. It takes 10 years, 20 years before you can see even return, that kind of thing. So Origgin took the plunge, and we back it, and now they are on track. They've gotten some funding from Japanese VCs, BNEX, and they are now trying to work with MINDEF, and Capista is an investment arm of MINDEF, is trying to work out something together with them. So this is another example that Origgin helped, to commercialize some of even the deep tech that nobody understands, and nobody willing to invest, or nobody willing to back. We would normally try to come in and try to create, and hopefully can bring them to the next level. Vectonic is announced spin-off from NUS also. They won the Slingshot first prize. I think basically they are coming up a breath analyzer for lung cancer. So by one breath, you can detect whether the lung cancer is at which stage 1 to stage 4. So now because of the COVID situation, they also pivoted. They are now doing COVID type of testing using your breath itself. So they gained quite a couple of traction. Now they are doing some kind of trial with NCID. Hopefully it's successful. Then their equipment will deploy quite widely in Singapore to do that kind of COVID detections, early detection, without spending too much money. Because we are talking about this test itself, from the breath, within 10 seconds, you can detect to a quite high level accuracy whether you're infected or not. So they are on path to doing something huge for the Singapore, in fact, for the world. So this is another example. BX is underwater autonomous vehicle. So this is also from NUS. They assigned a contract with oil rig company, Thai oil rig company, and they are doing underwater surveillance without, to take away the human element, because sending human down is dangerous and it's more expensive. So they have done several trials. Now they are on track to go into the Chinese market, and Origgin is helping them to commercialize the tech. Not only that, but also going to the Chinese market. So for Origgin, for the past coming to 3 years, we have gained quite a fair bit of traction. We have created more than 30 startups. These are all deep tech startups. We are not talking about the consumer tech. We are not a fund. Basically, these are all our own money. We plow in about 7 million in total. I think now it's more than 7 million. This is a bit outdated. And we attracted more than 23 million from the VCs, from the angels, and from all the local high net worth individuals. So in a nutshell, we created more than 100 jobs, because all these startups are hiring more people, and there are even more than 30 patents filed so far from all these startups itself. So our network are quite extensive. If you look at it, we are present. Of course, we started in Singapore, and we have a network in China, Japan, and now we are trying to go into Southeast Asia to help our deep tech startup to venture outside Singapore. Because as I said early on, you want to be a unicorn. Technically, you can't just be the only play the market in Singapore. There's no way that you can be a unicorn by serving the markets in Singapore alone, because Singapore is so big, right? We all know. And we have all the support from the universities locally, from the RIs, from A-Star, and also very important is from the government agency that can support or even give quite a lot of grants to our startup to get them off the ground as well. So we harness on that, and we are working closely with ESG. If you have any, most of our startup, when come to us, we will definitely try to help them to secure additional support or grants from the Singapore agency itself. So in that case, you will be able to do a bit more in a way, because you only have so much resources. So with the support, I think we have somehow stretch your dollar even further to help you to commercialize your tech. This is our team. We have built I started 3 years ago, only myself. Now we have grown to about more than 10 people. They are in a different space. We have a team of advisors covering also different sectors. I'm going to have about enough 4 guys coming on board, this whole venture creation has takes off for us. And now we are trying to grow the team to cover different segments of the technology itself. So this is just to show you the spread of all our advisor and the team itself. We have expert from China, we have expert from Japan, we have expert in food tech, we are expert in also in ICT and the built environment area. So we are bringing more and more of these so-called expert to complement the venture creations or the venture building. Some might call it that way for our own deep tech startup in Singapore. So these are the past events that we organized. This is in 2019, right? So we have signed a collaboration agreement with 2Star. 2Star is like, if you know, in Chinese it's called 启迪之星. They are the incubator of Tsinghua University. So they are the largest incubator based in China. They have about 140 or maybe even more now, 160 incubator points in China. So now we have signed the exclusive so-called type of arrangement with them by saying that, okay, any of our deep tech startup, which is now happening, about a couple of them, I think about 3 to 4 of them are going China. They are helping us to see how to entrench our startup by giving them a foothold in any of these 140, 150 points for them to start off and to secure collaborator in terms of, it could be SOE, state-owned enterprise, could be Chinese enterprise. This is one collaborator. Second is investor locally. So some of our company already managed to secure some partnership as well as funding in Chinese market through the 2Star network. They are one of the largest, in fact, the whole world, if not, right? Of course, we partner with Institute of Engineers from Singapore to get in all the more experienced PME, I would say the professional manager, and to help to also handhold and to also advise our deep tech startup in certain area, especially in the upscaling, pilot run, all these things whereby the researcher are not very strong in, because the researcher are very good in doing R&D, the research part of it in the lab, but to scale it up, to engineer it, to commercialize it, we need the engineers to come in to help, the professional engineers. So this is where we have tie-up with IES. Of course, prime partner, we have agreement signed with them basically to help us to raise follow-on funding. What we can do is fund you in pre-seed, maybe sometime up to seed level, but anything to do with pre-A and A, prime partner will be the guys that are helping us to do that, because they have a wide network of listed companies in Singapore. They have a lot of high net worth connections. They have a lot of institutions, VCs connections. This is where we partner with them and say, look, we need A round funding. They are the guys that come in to help us look at our deep tech. So that's a partnership that we are trying to solidify with them. Because Origgin, our focus is to help deep tech startup to help your tech, to commercialize your tech and to create a company. This is our forte, right? For loan funding, we'll leave it to prime partner to do it. I think we want to get it off the ground first, then we bring in the entire ecosystem to bring it to the next level. So last year we organized, this is also together with H-Star, the first Singapore-Japan Innovation Forum, whereby the Japanese MNC startup together with our own startup in Singapore. Actually, this year we wanted to organize a Singapore, Japan, and China type of forum, but unfortunately the COVID event doesn't allow us to do that. So hopefully next year we can do something bigger with three countries together, with all the startup and the network, the enterprise, and the entire ecosystem can come to play, because these are the 3 market I can see that moving forward will be quite potential. Besides Southeast Asia, besides ASEAN country, I think China, Japan will be quite a key market that our startup can explore to go into, or even to collaborate with some of the the partners in these 2 countries. We have an office in Suntec. I'm now in Suntec. I have an office in Block 71 whereby we house our startup. I know most of our startup, they really don't need the space. If they need to, they can go to our Block 71, because most of our startup from universities or RIs from A-Star, they have their co-working space. So, I mean, it's good for them. If they need to, we can still offer them a space in GTC Block 71. So these are our corporate partners that we have worked with them for the past 3 years. So our startup are working with these guys. Our partners are working with these guys. So some of us are already working with these enterprise so-called names. If you need to, you can leverage our network to commercialize your tech yourself. So we already have this corporate network cover. So easier for us to try to match your technology with these guys, right? So basically that's it for my presentations. Before I pass it to the next speaker, I just want to see whether is there any question for me.
Okay.
What are the typical ties? What do you mean? I really don't understand typical ties. What typical ties to investment in this tech?
Maybe I can ask the question directly.
Yeah, please.
This is Brahim. So I'm working for HPC. So I've been in many areas in A-Star, but I've also worked for some company outside. So when you show your diagram, when you have this initial 30K or 50K investment, I mean, there's some ties, there's some connect, some sort of, you're giving money, but not for free. And usually what is the typical, I don't know, share or this and that actually the researcher has to give away. And also, I'm also interested in, usually, I mean, any good plan has an exit strategy. And creating a company in Singapore is not difficult, but keeping it and sustaining it and having customers, etc., is the key issue here. So with the change of deep technology, quite rapid change, there is a need for a quick, usually exit strategy, or so maybe you can elaborate on some of those keys. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. Your first question is what is in for us for Origgin, right? Okay. I think for us, our ticket size, because we are doing formative stage. That means we churn out, we're doing the startup. So our typical size is from 50 to 100K that we will put it in. Of course, we will not let you just stay on this 50 to 100K. This is only in 2 months we try to inject. Within 6 months, we try to get you the seed money. If you saw my diagram, basically $300 to $1 million. So for us, normally we take a minority stake in the company because I've done startup for so many times, so many years. I know that the founders, the key stakeholder, which is the tech side from the researcher, or even the commercial team that subsequently I'm going to bring in maybe the CEO or CMO or the chief commercial officer. They need to be incentivized. So normally in Origgin, when we put in that kind of money, we take a minority stake, can be ranging from anywhere from 5% to maybe maximum 15-20% range, depending on how much money you put in, how much resources you put in. So typically from 5 to 15%, this is what we normally ask for. We give the major bulk of it to the researcher and maybe the new team that we're going to put in to incentivize them to move forward. So for exit strategy for us, we are not doing this purely for commercial sake. If a commercial sake, I wouldn't be doing this because doing startup in the deep tech space is very, very tough and it's a long gestation period. As I shared earlier on with you, Sentient is my first investment. Up to now, I put in $7 million of funding my own money, attracted 23 million. I got 0 exit at this point. So my first exit, hopefully for Sentient, will be in 24 to 36 months from now. So anything you do with deep tech, unlike those commercial or consumer tech like Carousel, like Grab, or this, I mean, IT tech itself, even fintech to a certain extent is quite fast. You can change fast. You can have exit fast. You can have traction fast. But in deep tech space or in the real tech space, is long gestation period. So you don't expect to have exit fast. If you, later on, Chris, one of our startup, and also DJ or even Archisen, Vincent can share with you. They are still trying to build a company. 3 years, some of them are 2 years, some are 3 years. So it's not that fast to exit. So I just want to be telling you the truth that you will jump into this, it will take you at least a few years minimum. Don't expect a quick exit for you guys. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting to make sure that one day I see the exit for the founder themselves. Right. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Clarence, would you like to take the other question now? Or we can wait until the end of the session? There will be 2 more questions from Yi Fan and Eric.
Fine. Okay, is it necessary for IP to be ready before the startup can be considered pre-seed? Yeah, pre-seed money is not to give you. Okay, you see, when I invested in Sentient, that was about 3 years ago, or a couple of companies about 3 years ago. My ticket size was 250 to 300,000. But I realized that to start from zero to give them 300,000 is a bit of how to say. Maybe they don't need money so fast in the very first 2 months, right? Then if I put in that kind of money, I also at a high risk of getting my money stuck if, let's say, the spin-off itself don't get off the ground, because this is really talking about deep tech, and some of the tech itself is first of its kind, never done before. They have power patterns, but not in the market before. So how do I know that the tech will gain traction, right? It needs time to verify the hypothesis, whether the tech will work or not. It needs time to commercialize the tech. So I realized the sweet spot is 50 to 100K to get the company off the ground within 2 months. We can decide fast. Then we quickly try to come up some kind of proof of concept to get the commercial buying from enterprise. Then we will raise the seed round within 6 months' time for you in the region of about 300 to 1 million. So in that case, you won't dilute your company straight away. If I pump in 250,000, how much stake I need to take in your company? So I also looking at how am I going to preserve your shareholding in the company. If I come in too huge, 1 million, I take 90% of the company, you won't be happy, right? And you don't need that kind of money at the very first 2 or 3 months in your operations. So the other question, you are saying that the IP to be ready. Yes, I need, because unlike VCs, right? VC, they have 20,000 checklists before they invest in you. They must make sure that they will sure win before they invest. But for venture creator like us, we're taking a super high risk. So most of the time when you go to the lab, talk to professor, talk to the researcher, we only see what? We only see their tech, the demo, the lab prototype, maybe the IP patterns. Okay, this is all we can see. Do they have a team? No. They only have a researcher. Do they have a customer yet? No. So how are we going to assess that, whether this tech can make it or not? So minimum, what we need to have is at least, if we have a patent or going to file a technical disclosure, I think that is the starting point for us, Origgin, to assess. So the 3 things we look for in this so-called spin-off is 3 things. One is whether you have a good patent that you file. The researcher is whether it's a good researcher, reputable researcher. And third is whether we can find you an anchor commercial partner or potential enterprise partner to commercialize the technology. If these 3 things are met, we just say, let's go ahead and do it, right? So we don't have a 20,000 checklist to make sure that everything is covered before I invest in you. So this is the high risk that we are taking. But if we don't do it, I don't think anybody in the market will want to do it. So it's sort of, I keep telling Tai Hao, say we're also doing a little bit of national service. That's right. Otherwise, there's no, most of my friends or even angel investor, they want sure win before they jump in. But for us, I think if you give me 3 things, IP is good, I able to file patents, researcher are okay, I can find your customers, I say let's do it. Okay, that is my modus operandi so far, right? Because we are all entrepreneur, we know you need to take a high risk before getting off the ground. Otherwise, they will never see daylight of technology. A lot of cases, like the new space I mentioned earlier on, they are nanotech, right? They are in the lab. They have the tech itself. They brought it to me 2 years ago. They are saying that, okay, this tech, nobody understands nanotech, nobody want to invest. So I say, okay, if I don't do it, this tech itself will never see daylight. So fortunately, I did it. Now they are on track. They got some funding. They are now on track to do a bigger thing. So this is the risk I'm taking. I'm not saying that all will be successful. I can tell you a lot of them will not make it. But this is the risk I'm prepared to take, just to share. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, because we take one more question, then we will leave the rest of the questions to the end of the webinar. So there's one question from Eric, which is on aquaculture development in Singapore.
Okay, that one I'll leave it to Vincent, which is later on he's a specialist in this so-called agriculture area, you can ask this question. I want to channel the other question interesting from Xiao He said, how A-star researcher can remain in A-star while starting up? Later on, Dr. Kirsh, TJ, they will show they are from NUS, they are researcher, they are doing the spin-off right now. Origgin is helping them to cover the commercial angle of it. So hopefully 2 or 3 years when the thing takes off, they can come up full-time online. But I can't influence A-star HR policy. These questions I leave to Tai Hao to speak on it. If A-star allows it, I'm able to do it on my side. A-star, I mean, for Tai Hao, any comment on that?
Oh, yeah. So by default, A-star researchers are allowed to hold shares. So everything is subject to due process. You need to do the declaration. But A-star researchers are allowed to hold shares in startups, even be co-founders. And I think you just cannot take executive positions in the startup.
Sure. Thank you, Tao. I think in the interest of time, right, I think Susan is pushing me. I think I would like to maybe bring on the next so-called one of our startup, Dr. Kirsh. I think is one of a startup that we've supported in NUS. The company name is ENBED. Dr. Kirsh is one of the researcher started this company, and we are supporting them. Of course, journey is not so simple, not so easy. I will let Dr. Kirsh share his journey with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clarence. Hi, everyone. ENBED is a startup co-created by Origgin. So we primarily do plug load management for smart spaces. So who am I? I'm a researcher just like most of you. I think maybe almost all of you. So I received my PhD from NUS, National University of Singapore. And my area of research is primarily in power systems and building automation, electrical subsystems within buildings. I worked at NUS as a research engineer, then as a research fellow, and currently I'm still a researcher. I'm not quit my existing research job. I'm a postdoctoral scholar for SimbaBest. So SimbaBest is a program run by Berkeley Education Alliance for Research in Singapore. It's in the Create Tower in the 11th floor. So this is to serve as an example for you to see that being a researcher, I still try to carry on with the progress of a startup. So what is ENBED? So it's a startup, a deep tech startup since 2018. Our mission is to produce intelligent systems for Internet of Electricals. So you already have the Internet of Things, which includes like everything. And typically when you think of IoT, you think of small, very small embedded systems which can safely touch and which deals with mostly information. In our case, we deal with both information and energy, and it can go higher voltage. Our vision is to advance the transition of the world to smart energy and asset management. Of course, the broader objective. And the name ENBED comes from the energy embedding, information, intelligence, and insight. So 3 things which are like the 3 stages of knowledge. And we have a team from Origgin and from NUS who are behind us, with us. So I would say Clarence and Joseph they are both at Origgin, and they are the ones who are dealing with the commercialization parts. And from research side, we have Professor Panda. He was my supervisor. And Dr. Chin, he was my colleague. Currently, he is now a lecturer in Vietnam. Along with the NUS people and with Origgin, we have this company which is moving forward. What we essentially do is we do digitalized plug load management. So even though our scope is very broad, we have to start from somewhere. And a deep tech startup should essentially start from some known IP, preferably, so that we have confidence, okay, there is something new which others readily do not have, the world does not readily have, and we have an edge over others. So to simplify what we do, I've just shown a photo of a normal socket and a smart plug which gets sold in the market. There are hundreds of smart plugs which get sold, and many of them can be sold, are sold in Singapore also. So what we have come up is the thing on the right side, which is a new faceplate, which is not a smart plug, but a faceplate which will go inside the wall, which contains electronics, which can detect, not only detect, identify, recognize what exactly is connected to it. So as when it comes to the product offering, we have in the middle one, we have the COS. So we call it CO, Smart Electrical Outlet Socket. It sounds like Zeus, the god of thunder or electricity, whichever. So the middle part, the central part of the screen, it shows the two different kinds of sockets which are typically used everywhere in Singapore. From my childhood, I have not seen them changing, and only recently there is a trend of smart plugs, and which are not actually getting into commercial spaces. For home usage, smart home automation, yeah, there are so many products being sold, but for the commercial spaces, large buildings, government offices, none of them use these kind of smart products. And a recent advance has been in the area of electric vehicle charging. So technically, electric vehicles are now plug loads. So I would in a way bundle all of these together, and we say that we do digitalized plug load management. So what do we offer through the digitalized plug load management? We offer high fidelity socket controls. That means you remotely control the sockets with exact knowledge of what you're controlling. And you can group and control things together. So that is a configuration part. We do granular plug load electrical measurements. So any real-time measurement you can do. And of course, the API has to be there so that the building management system, there are already existing building management systems for the lighting part, for the ACMV part, but there is no real software which controls the plug load part, because it is a difficult problem. It's a physically difficult problem to manage sparsely distributed, spatially distributed small items which contribute a large percentage of energy. So typically modern buildings will consume up from 25% to up to even 50% of building energy over the year for plug loads. We also, because we can identify what is connected, we can also do appliance tracking and inventory management. As researchers, you would have purchased many things multiple times, like not something which the organization already has been repeatedly purchased by someone else because they didn't know that the item is already within the building. And then we of course offer algorithm services. That means the scheduling, energy saving. That is how we come in the sustainability part plus the ICT part. We are an ICT solution which can save energy. We offer data services so that the organization which owns the sockets can get information on the space utilization and what is the redundancy level, whether if you buy 5 printers, are all the 5 printers working used as expected, or maybe everyone is using just 1 printer and other 4 are left off. And we provide something new, which is a building firewall. So if you want to secure a building and make sure that only the appliances that you have permitted can be connected to the building, or only those are supplied the electricity, then we can do that. So this is analogous to an operating system firewall. Like a firewall allows or disallows programs. Here we can allow or disallow appliances, electric vehicles, or any plug loads. So how does it work? Since you are researchers, you may be curious. So I put up a slide that we have a tagging mechanism, which is a near field tag, and we have a socket which can read the tag, and we have a mechanism of mapping the information with the physical data of the appliance. Physical data in the sense there is metadata which human beings see. Now that metadata would be digitized and will be available for the building management systems to see and take decisions on top of that. And we have a local server, of course, to do edge analytics, so that some of the clients, they don't want the data, all the data going outside the building. So this is a secure by design method. Also it gives, eliminates a lot of privacy concerns. So the core idea behind this is that you can have a unique ID for things, and you can map the unique ID to a metadata and real-time data of the appliance. So the real-time data would be something like the current voltage, energy, power, any time series. Metadata would be what is the name of the appliance, who is the manufacturer, when it was purchased, what are the electrical ratings, and so on. The best analogy which I've seen, which I've thought of, is that let's say appliances have a Facebook and a Fitbit profile. Typically, human beings have Facebook and Fitbit profiles, in which you have Facebook, in which you have infrequently updated data, and Fitbit is like health monitoring; it's frequently updated. And now let's assume each and every appliance of yours has a digital profile, which is equivalent to Facebook profile and a Fitbit profile. So that's how we can provide all the services that I've shown before. So our journey with Origgin. So I think this is the main part, which would be of interest to you. That we initially met with Clarence on November 2017. And this was important because we were filing an invention disclosure for the mechanisms and the things we have developed. And Clarence was able to give us evaluation of the future of the technology. Just because you have a technology doesn't mean other people want to buy it, or there's a market for that. So it was important to have a third-party evaluation, and Origgin was able to provide that. Then we had meetings with potential customers. In Singapore, there's a special scenario in which not only the customers are spread out, there are some big customers, let's say like HDB or any governmental agency who wants to purchase sockets. So we had a good discussion with the stakeholders or the customers involved, interested to buy. And Origgin was part of the actively participating in that involvement, so that they can answer the questions on the commercial side. The company registration, yes, that was helped by Origgin, entirely done by Origgin actually. I have underwent a Lean Launchpad program by NUS. So Lean Launchpad is somewhere they apply Lean principles. So there are principles they have learned from business schools about empirical evidence gathering, about the market value of something you want to sell, so that the researchers would know whether the technology they developed is saleable or not. So there are so many assignments. It went on for a few months, and there were many assignments. And Origgin was helpful in providing the manpower, so that those assignments, because those assignments are not simply technical assignments, it requires interviewing people, interviewing non-technical people, people who make the decisions in companies, and so on. Then we went also through the NUS GRIP program. Some of you may know about it. In that also, there was help from Origgin. And of course, we got investment initially from GRIP. We won the investment, and correspondingly from Origgin to match the GRIP investment. So what it indicates is that there was deep involvement of human resource sharing. The ACRA is the statutory board for business registration. And then the company website creation, emails, company emails. There are so many logistical issues that a researcher may not be interested to handle, and it may be time consuming for them to handle also. So all this process could be eased and helped by someone like a co-creator like Origgin. It is very different from someone simply giving you money and asking you the return. They have an active involvement. And all this while, I continued with my job, and it's like a part-time investment from my side on what are the processes involved. So maybe the relevance to A-Star, I was wondering who from A-Star would be participating. So when I looked at the relevance of the ICT kind of product which we have, it is mostly related to SERC and the I2R institutes. And there has been smart plug development done by I2R long ago in 2016. And I have spoken with the co-founder for the startup called Intrax. So they have been advised by I2R in various ways. And I think there could be potential contribution from A-Star for ENBED also, with respect to maybe test bedding or IoT networks and encryptions and so on. So I think, yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Krish. So the next speaker we have is Tze Jie, which is also from NUS, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll leave the time to him.
Thank you, Susan. Let me share my slides first. Yeah. So thank you all for joining today. So I'm Eey Tze Jie from Origgin, Ultradry. So currently I'm a PhD student in NUS, year 1. So I have the opportunity to join my Assistant Professor Tan Sui Ching from Material Science and Engineering on his startup venture called Ultradry. So it is based on a technology that he and his students invented back in 2018. So what is this technology about? So it is a super hygroscopic hydrogel. So what it's capable of is it has a moisture absorption capacity of more than 450%. So in contrast to the commercial desiccants such as silica gel, which is only 15% of its own weight, and calcium chloride, which is about 80% of its own weight. So on the first note, we are much better than the commercial material. And secondly, it can be regenerated under sunlight. So what does this mean? Simply means that you just need low temperature regeneration, about 50 degrees Celsius. It can be properly regenerated back to its dehydrated stage for reuse. And based on our life cycle test, and it's still ongoing, we have tested more than 1,600 cycles of absorption and desorption, and it's still going strong with little drop in performance. And last but not least, it is highly scalable in the sense that you don't need, for a start, you don't need big machinery or sophisticated equipment to help manufacture these hydrogel. You simply need a mixer and dry oven to do so. You can basically start at your home to produce the hydrogel. So that's the unique points of this ultra-dry hydrogel. So like I mentioned earlier on, the competitive advantage is in terms of the absorption capacity is much better than silica gel and calcium chloride. And it's also its low energy regeneration simply means that if you want to reuse the drying agent, our drying agent, you don't need a lot of energy expenditure to do so. Yeah. And besides the moisture absorption, it has also other functionality. It can be tunable to visible light and IR transmission in the sense that it can be used to block out the IR transmission, and also in terms of allowing different intensity of visible light coming in by changing each I would say its colors upon different degree of absorptions. And because of it being ionic salt base, it can be used, it's conductive as well. So it can be used as a conductive ink for flexible electronics. So besides being a desiccant, it has multiple other functions as well that we can explore commercially. So the innovation since it publication, it has gained numerous news coverage, such as both times in Straits Times in 2019 twice, and also in various international media coverage in China and also in Europe and US. So besides news coverage, we also being featured in the market research report by Frost and Sullivan's. So it's a recognition to us on how this technology in terms of commercial values. So this is our team. Assistant Professor Tan Sui Ching is the founder and is currently in NUS. And Joseph and Clarence is from Origgin, who is also our angel investor, venture co-creation. And myself, I'm in charge of the innovation of Ultradry. So it's simply to put it is to translate the technology that you have in the lab to something commercial as a product that someone would be willing to pay to solve their pain point. So you may be wondering, I have a good technology, it can outperform any commercial products. But where can I actually applied it in real life and to find paying customers. So you may first turn to the internet to search maybe for the various kind of application that your technology can be applied. But I kind of feel that what is better is able to get in touch with industrial partners to understand their pain point and how our technology can come in place to solve and eventually get them to pay for this solution. And that is where venture co-creation comes in. So this is some of the potential applications that we look at, just like I mentioned earlier on, where we can actually on paper, internet, look for different kind of applications, research into the various pain points and developments that may be present in the market. But like I mentioned earlier on, it's best to speak to industrial partners, companies to find out so that you can pivot your technology development to the correct target. So we have this opportunity that Origgin helped us to link up with Jingmao, which is basically one of the largest real estate company developers in China. So we have this great opportunity to join the green building competition in the early Jan of 2020 before the widespread of the pandemic. So these are the key learning outcomes that we take away from this competition. So through this competition, we learn about what is the state-of-the-art technology in the market. So in the sense that we spoke to their building manager, their research director, we understand about the issues they face. For example, some of humidity-related issue and also air conditioning technology that they feel that what is lacking in the market that cannot be fulfilled, and that is how deep tech startup can potentially come to fill the gap. And based on their understanding, we can also learn about what is the general direction of the industry, so that to let yourself have a gauge whether this market is suitable for you in the long run, and what are the possible returns and collaborators that you can potentially reach out to in the future. And like I mentioned earlier on, what is best way to find out where is the pain points and unmet needs is basically to go out and speak to companies to understand more. The internet will only give you this much, but by going out to explore, it will give you a lot more unmet needs that you never realized that is out there actually. And each unmet need can be potentially money making. And also through this competition, we get to know who are your competitors. Because in this space, right, you may think that your technology may be unique, but when you go to competition, you realize that there's a whole lot of different universities in this world offering. It may be of different form, but it can be similar solutions to what you are actually offering to a company. It's like the Chinese way of saying 知己知彼，百战百胜. It's knowing yourself and your enemy, and you can win the battle with ease. So, like I say, all these learning outcomes is possible with the help of venture co-creation Origgin, because as a researcher, PhD student, I'm more towards the research field. And I don't really have the contact to reach out to these industrial partners, which are essential to help me understanding the business aspect. So that is where Origgin can come in, the part whereby venture co-creation manifests into its real advantage. So the next thing that I would like to share is about the pre-accelerator program that I found out that there's this competition being organized locally. And I thought that it would be a good chance for me to learn more about starting up. So, but it's unnerving actually at first to join alone, because not knowing much about the startup on the business aspect. But going into such competition is more or less a straight out of the shortlisting. So I'm fortunate to get Joseph from Origgin to join me, which I can be the technical guy and he can be the business lead. And we partner up to join this competition, and eventually we got shortlisted to be one of the top 20 finalists in this competition itself. So within that, we learn about the business plan, such as the MVP, market validation, business model, and go-to-market strategy. So what are the challenges that we actually face? So in the sense that we face, like for example, this competition only lasts about 5 weeks before you get to present to the investment panel. So within this short time frame, you need to look for commercial partners and also to get your prototype ready. So with the help of Joseph, who can cover the business aspect, I can have the time to focus on my technology development in my lab so that he can help me to cover the business aspect. So this is how venture co-creation can come hand in hand, in the sense that you yourself as a researcher can do what you do best at your lab, focus on the development and the inputs from the outside companies, so that to pivot your technology in the right direction where the company may need. And for example, Joseph will cover the essential aspects to bring the technology to the market. So it's how really I can foresee that it goes beyond just giving you the money and ask you to do everything yourself, to push you in the ocean to find your own way. And really thankful for Origgin to help us out throughout this journey. Yeah. Then also, like I mentioned about the networking and linking out with industry. So when you join Origgin, you join the network, their network, the vast network that can get you to the market fast. So, and also from this networking, you get to understand a little bit better about the market that you want to serve, and also how to pivot your technology correctly to serve them, and also to get a follow-up contact with them. So eventually come up with this prototype called UltraCool. So it is an indoor cooling solution for the tropical part of the world to reduce by reducing relative humidity. So just like the aircon or dehumidifier, they are used to reduce the relative humidity down to 60% to provide a more comfortable indoor space to live and work. So with a lower relative humidity in the indoor environment, using a fan will be more effective in cooling the room than just using a fan in a humid environment itself. So these are some of it's a result of the unmet needs that we get to interact with other companies, and we found, and how we can translate the technology to a product that a customer is willing to pay. So that's all from my side, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, TJ. So our last speaker is from Archisen, Vincent Wei. I'm sure some of you have quite familiar with Archisen. You have seen them at Accelerate Now, and you have heard them. You might even try their products on the market already. So I would like to welcome Vincent. Vincent, are you there?
Yeah. Hi. Yep. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi. Thanks for the introduction. I'd like to share a bit more, since they've shared a lot. I'd like to share a bit more about the VCC journey together with Clarence and Eey Tze Jie over the past few years. Yeah. Just to let everyone know the meaning of the word Archisen, is a combination of two words. It's architecture for sensor networks, and then how that came about is because we actually started doing a lot of sensing systems over in the plantations, using designing and architecture of those sensors, and then we just transited along that to urban farming, like what we are doing now. So our vision is to provide everyone with the freshest and most nutritious and flavorful food produce, and we want to build the largest network of urban farms in Asia by serving cities with fresh, nutritious, and flavorful produce. We believe that we need to combine crop intelligence, engineering innovation, and market insights. And we want to bring together the brightest minds as well to make an impact on food ecosystems. This is what we do. We have a complete solution for farm investors. The solution is called CropDom, which stands for Crop Kingdom. We design the farm, we build the farm, we grow the crops, and we distribute the crops, which is a turnkey solution that we provide for various parties. In the system that we have, it is an indoor cultivation system with about 25% IRR. It's 40% higher yield than rural farming, 90% more water efficient, and we have grown about 50 different crop types. More importantly, the crops that we grow are locally grown, pesticide-free, and we focus on the taste as well. Our product is currently available in various platforms. It's called Just Produce. No pesticides, no GMOs, and no preservatives, so Just Produce and nothing else. It's available on Redmark, Greenies, Food Services, Creative Eateries, as well as Sheng Siong. So our CropDom system is powered by CropTron, which is a software that we have developed in-house. And the objective is to produce high yields for urban farms. This is one of the key technologies that we are developing together with A*STAR, specifically the Bioinformatics Institute. So I mean, we had the privilege to go on a journey to work with Hui Kwan and Xiong An, the researchers from BII. Of course, when we started off, before that, when we are going through the discussions of the RCA, privileged to work with Peter, Tai Hao, Hambun, Kai Hu. And it was actually Origgin, Clarence, that helped to introduce this collaboration, or this way they could work together. And also we had the privilege to have Christopher Yeo advise us as well. And the purpose of developing this analytical tool is to be able to predict the yield of crops. And the objective is to be able to increase marketable yield and to reduce the wastage when a farm actually operates to produce the vegetables. The other features of our CropTron is to manage the farm, manage the data from sensors, control the different systems within the farm, have automated suggestions on what to do, as well as perform other types of analytical models. Yeah. So this is a picture way back in 2017 when we first joined Media Exploits. So worked very closely with Clarence and Chris. So I mean, working with Clarence is one of the is actually one of the first investors in Archisen. We had a quarter mil round with him, and he is a very reliable person that you can work with, and he has a lot of integrity. And I think that's someone that you need on your team, especially when you're starting out. Someone to be there, especially when a company is in tough times. So I think Clarence has put through for us quite a few times, and I'm very grateful for that. And so we started off on Media Exploits. That's how we started our relationship with A*STAR, interacting and finding out some of the problems that we could help us to solve with. My partner, Savan, is beside me, and Dixon, who is currently our farm manager as well. And then we participate in Accelerate Now. This was an exhibition where we were presenting about our solution that was still being developed in progress. And then at the same time, we also collaborated. Peter also introduced one of the other companies which was doing a drone, and how actually drones could actually help to monitor the crops within the farm, which was very interesting. And the guest of honor was able to have a visual view of how that could happen as well. And then as part of it, Origgin also introduced us to a project with Greenway Grid Global. We were finding out whether building an indoor farm or an urban farm in Cambodia would be feasible. So this was an overseas trip where we went to find out more. This was a close partnership that we had, and there was a lot of exchange of information. This further on led on to further experiments that we conducted back in Singapore. So this was a good project that we had. And Accelerate Now happened last year. So That's where we actually completed our research project together with A-Star and BII. And this software that we have is actually one of the modules that we have within our system right now that will help us to increase the efficiency of our operations. Yeah. Recently, A-Star also introduced us to the JCC Friends, and that's where we got involved in the Sungai Kadut Eco District. This is a project that the Singapore government is looking at very closely right now on how to transform Singapore's farming industry so that we can better be more self-sufficient. And there's a lot of planning around this, and through A-Stars and Clarence introduction, we are actually quite involved with them right now in terms of how to plan the entire eco district that will consist of various different types of farming technologies. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you very much. I've come to the end of my presentation.
Thanks, Vincent. So there's one question from the floor for you. What are Archisen's plan moving forward? And from Archisen's perspective, what are the areas that A-Star can continue to collaborate with Archisen on your journey?
Yeah, I think so our vision is to provide everyone with fresh, nutritious, and flavorful produce. So that's clear, right? So moving forward, we still want to continue doing that. And I think that we want to continue to be able to expand, build more farms, and be able to bring this technology out to Singapore and different parts of the region. We are looking at various other ways that we can work with A-Star on various parts of the technology spectrum, because we believe that in order for farming to be effective, we need to look at various aspects such as crop science, automation, things relating to seeds, nutrients, lighting, air circulation, the air composition, the types of plants, and there are so many different things. And unfortunately, Singapore does not really have that strong of agriculture background as compared to other countries. So I think being able to work with A-Star closely on various aspects of agriculture would be very important. I can't really pinpoint specifically exactly what, because different technologies actually affect different parts of the value chain, but we're definitely open to see how we can look at various parts of the system and work with A-Star on this.
Okay, thank you, Vincent. Another question for you is, if Archisen monitors CO2 levels, effect on plant growth, and whether you are looking at CO2 enrichment to increase plant yield?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. Yeah, so I think if you do look at literature, there's various studies being done on what's optimal CO2 levels for different types of plants, and definitely ensuring that we can have the optimal CO2 levels, which is definitely higher than ambient CO2. Ambient CO2 is probably around 300 to 400, whereas generally enriched CO2 levels are between 800 to 1,002. And I think that we are looking to see how we can reach that level. Not only that, we want to see how we can enable even distribution of CO2 among the plants. So it's not just about having a container that is spewing out CO2, but ensuring that all the plants receive that equal amount of enriched CO2. Thank you.
So Vincent, I think you mentioned that Archisen has plans to go regional. Which are the first countries outside Singapore that Archisen might be interested to expand into?
Yeah. So I think we already have some current touch points in the Southeast Asian countries, such as Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. We're also looking at various cities around, such as Korea, China. And I think we are not limited to these surrounding countries. We are focusing on cities because we feel that in cities, they do face the issues of high expensive labor and expensive land. And so these countries would be able to benefit from urban farming more so than other types of places. And so we are definitely open to look at cities in and around the region, especially in Asia.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think there's another question, right? I think from Sharon, asking whether who can the company approach if they have a problem to be solved by A-Star. I think can approach Tai Hao, right? Tai Hao in the chat group. Tai Hao? No, okay, Tai Hao just answer. Okay, Ken.
Yeah, so if let's say you have any questions, you can approach Accelerate staff. Can it be Tai Hao or your comms partner? And also you can even approach A-Star Central. We will help you to refer you to the right person to help you with your case. And also just now Clarence offer his email address in the chat, so you can approach him if let's say you want him to take a look at the potential commercialization areas as well.
So to further add, I think the commercialization part for this deep tech IP to enterprise is you can't do it by. It's difficult to do it by all alone by yourself, because I realized for the past three years, the researcher, they are very good in what they are doing. The domain they are very deep in their research and all these things. But come to commercialization, most of the time they either don't want to do it, or they don't know how to do it, or they are afraid to do it. So this is where the part that we will put in the interim team from Origgin, the commercial team, to help them to go into the market and try to raise the TRL, try to do a proof of concept, and even try to negotiate with the commercial partner to get a technology commercialized into the market. So I would say it's a teamwork type of structure that we are trying to put in place. It's difficult to train an engineer, a good scientist to be a good CEO, and train the CEO to be a good engineer. It's very difficult to do that. So it's most likely it's the teamwork to get the tech off the ground and get into the market. You need a team of people to work together with you. Eventually, what we want to do, even though we are interim stopgap measure for you to take it off the ground, eventually what we want to do is to build a solid team for your deep tech startup to bring the company forward. This is happening for some of our startup. Archisen is a very good case. Vincent and Sylvain, both are the founder. They are now have a team of people that can really bring the company to the next level. Sentin also started with Christopher. They are now stabilized. They are able to bring the company forward. But during the formative stage, this is where we can help the most as an interim stopgap measure for them. Just to share this experience for the past 3 years.
Okay, is there any last question from the floor?
Sorry, I think there was a question about 50 to 100K not sufficient to create R&D lab.
Okay, so I can answer this question. Early on, I answered the question in saying that 50 to 100K is not the only funding you receive. You look at all my deep tech startup, 50, 100K is just a start. Archisen, we invested $250,000, as what Vincent has said. For ENBED, we invested 50, but they raised another 100. We are in the midst of raising another 300 to 500K for them, right? So we are talking about how are we going to raise money subsequently at the right time and the right valuation for a company. Going out too early to raise a lot of money doesn't mean it's a good thing, because you have heavy dilution for your own deep tech startup. And most of our deep tech startup, they are originated from the lab, and the lab is we have to maximize and leverage on the lab, the resources from A-Star, the resources from NUS, okay, to help them in the lab, in the research. This is the part that we need help from this so-called from the institute itself. There's no point for me to plow in $2 million to do the pure research, and this is not our job, because we don't have that kind of capacity to do it. We are not the big fund. Neither does the startup got the big money to do that. You have to leverage on the A-Star, you have to leverage on NUS, you have to leverage on the lab, the equipment, and all these things to get it off the ground first. So giving you 50 to 100 is just a starting point, and we can make the decision very fast within less than 2 months, or in fact, couple of weeks. But the journey moving forward will be staged in 6 months for the seed round, in another 18 months for A round. And we have brought some of the company into A rounds right now, as you can see, Sentient, Archisen, and a couple of them, just to share.
Okay, thank you, Clarence. So I guess that brings to the end of our session. Well, thank you again, Clarence, Kirsh, EJ, and also Vincent for joining us today.